So I think we can get started. Is that okay with you, Tammy?
Yes, you see my screen?
Yes, I do. So hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Rock Your Instagram with Katie Lance. My name is Jessica Purdy-Berg, and I'm a member of the YPN committee and a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services California Properties in the Ventura office. We could not have events like these without our realtor partners, and this event is no exception. We'd like to thank our gold sponsors, starting with Cecilia Caro of Coldwell Banker Residential Brokerage, as well as Berkshire Hathaway California Properties Ventura office, and our silver sponsors as well. We've got Ryan Bruns of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services California Properties, Kate Turner of Comfort Real Estate, and Vanessa Rice with Fidelity National Home Warranty. We will be doing a Q&A session at the end of the meeting, so please hold your questions until then, or feel free to put them in the chat so you don't forget, and we'll get to them later. And now to introduce our guest is Kate Turner.
Hello, I'm Kate Turner, 2021 Chair for the VCCAR YPN Committee. I have the privilege to introduce our dynamic social media trendsetting guest, Katie Lance. After a long list of marketing accomplishments, including authoring the Amazon bestseller book, #GetSocialSmart, Katie has spent the last 10 years focused on social media because she believes that social media is one of the best ways to engage and connect with your potential and current clients. In 2012, Katie made a conscious decision to not be all things to all people, but to focus on her passion, social media for the real estate industry. So social media changes all the time. Many organizations have amazing training programs and coaches, but it can be daunting to keep up with the changes. This is where Katie comes in. Whether or not you have read some of her articles, watched a few of her Instagram posts, or taken another of her courses, you are going to be surprised at how much you're going to learn and retain in this next hour. Take it away, Katie.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Tammy and Kate and Jessica. I appreciate the warm welcome and so excited to be here and just be here with all of you virtually. Big thanks to Ventura County Association YPN. So hello, hello, hello. I can see lots of you have your camera on. Feel free to turn your camera on if you'd like. If you don't want to, it's all good. I'm not going to make you turn your camera on, but feel free to turn that on. And as Kate mentioned, we're going to take questions at the end. So I've got about an hour planned for today. I've got a ton of content for you. And a couple things I would recommend is, if possible, if you're at a place where you can close out your other windows, close out your other tabs, I highly recommend you do that. Give yourself the gift of your presence. Give yourself the gift of your presence while you're here today. I know it's super tempting during these classes to be multitasking, but I promise we're gonna have a lot of fun. You're gonna learn a lot of great stuff, and it'll be a really good time. So as Tammy mentioned, this is being recorded. As far as the format today, I'm going to teach, like I said, for about an hour. So hold your questions. I'm sure you're going to have questions as we go through the content today. You can put those in the chat, but just know I'm not going to look at those until the end today. So I promise I'm not ignoring you, but I will get to them at the end. I just kind of want to get through all of it, and then we'll open it up to questions at the end. It looks like all of you are muted, which is awesome. If you wouldn't mind just staying muted during the presentation, and then at the end we can unmute for your questions, or you can always put those questions in the chat. All right, sound good? Thumbs up. If you got your cameras on, give me a thumbs up. All right, awesome. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen here really quick, and we will go ahead and get started. So we are focused on talking about Instagram today, and I was just sharing with Tammy and the crew right before we started that I'm super excited about this conversation because Instagram has changed a lot. It is evolving and growing. You know, Instagram used to just be like the photo sharing app. And just a few weeks ago, there have been a lot of big announcements with Instagram. Instagram's evolving. We're seeing a lot more video content. There is Instagram stories, Instagram reels, Instagram TV, Instagram live, and it can be kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of options out there. But one of the reasons why we're talking about Instagram today is because I really feel for a real estate professional, there is really so many big opportunities for engagement, especially organically. I know, if you're over on Facebook, Facebook's still a great platform. Facebook is still the #1 social media platform for a lot of folks. But the reality is, to get organic traction over on Facebook, meaning to get traction on Facebook without spending money, can be a little challenging in 2021. Not only that, but there's a lot of noise. I don't know about you, but sometimes I go on Facebook and it's a little, it's just a lot, right? There's cat videos and political posts and what people had for breakfast, and there's just a lot of noise. And what I love about Instagram is it's a very aspirational platform. It's about pictures, it's about videos, and it's really ideal for real estate. So for those of you who don't know me, I do appreciate that warm welcome. Again, my name is Katie Lance. I'm the founder and CEO of Katie Lance Consulting and the Get Social Smart Academy. I've been featured in the news, other online publications. I'm author of the book, Get Social Smart. You can see a few family pictures on the screen here. Really, for the past 10 years, our focus has been helping agents and brokers get smarter about social media to help them grow their business. We just really believe that, social media is not the end all and be all. It's not the silver bullet, but when done right, especially with Instagram, it can really make a big difference in your business. And at the end of the day, time is our most precious asset. I feel this deeply as a business owner. I'm happily married. My husband, Paul, is not only my husband, he's also my business partner. We've been married almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years this October. We have 2 boys, which for the past year and a half have been Zooming, and doing school remotely. So, time is our most precious asset. And we're going to kind of infuse that in our conversation with Instagram today, because I don't think as an agent, I don't think you necessarily need to know every bell and whistle. I think you need to pick a couple things that make the most sense for your business here today. Now, one other thing I'll mention too is I would love, as you're listening to this presentation, if you and I are not yet connected over on Instagram, I would love to connect with you. My handle is at the bottom of the screen right there. It's @Katie Lance. So if you're on Instagram, you can open up, give me a follow. And as we go through today's presentation, if you hear something that gets you fired up, you can take a picture of the screen or do a selfie, as I saw a couple of you do before we started. Post it to Instagram, tag me, and after this presentation, I'm going to hop on Instagram, and I would love to connect with you and love to hear what your takeaways were. So today we're going to talk about how to attract the right type of followers to Instagram. We're going to talk about how to develop a personalized look and feel to your posts, and also how to create a smart Instagram schedule and strategy. We're going to talk about how to use Instagram to build your business, how to maximize stories, reels, IGTV, all the different pieces of Instagram. And then, like I said, at the end, we will open it up to questions. So if you are just now joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to take questions at the end here today. So hold your questions or put them in the chat, and we'll get to those at the end here today. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Before we even talk about content, let's first start and talk about your profile. And I also just want to say really quick, if you do not have an Instagram account, you're not late to the game. You can download Instagram. It's free. It's available on iPhone, Android, any platform. And whether you're new to Instagram or whether you've been around a long time, one of the most important things that you can do is make a really good first impression with your bio, right? As you start to interact with folks, especially people who don't know you, if you start commenting and interacting with people in your local area, and if you start using Instagram as a way to build your business, if people don't know you, they're going to go to your profile and they want to know who you are, right? So we want to make sure, especially for Instagram for business, that we have our account open to the public. Now, I'm sure some of you have a private Instagram that you just use for friends and family, and that's fine. I do recommend, though, for business, that you have a business account that's open to the public. Now, that doesn't always mean you have to have 2 separate accounts. Every time we open up a new account, it's like one more thing we have to manage. So if you do have a personal account, you can go into your settings and you can actually convert your personal account to a business account. There's like 2 or 3 steps. It's really easy. You can always convert it back if you don't like it as a business account. That's what I did. I had a personal account. I converted it to a business account that's public. And that doesn't mean I just talk about business. You know, if you and I are connected on Instagram, you know, I talk about my boys. We have a cat that just turned 2 years old. I talk about wine, right? But I also talk about business. So you don't have to have 2 accounts. But if you'd like to just have one, I recommend having a business account. That way you can have some personal, some business. But having that open to the public is key. You know, having a business account that's open to the public, it's a lot like walking down your main street and you're walking by the retail stores and their doors are open, right? And so you want to be open for business. So your bio, there's a few things that are important. You're only allowed about 150 characters in your bio, so you have to be brief. You want to tell people who you are, what area you serve, what brokerage you're with, and if it's required, I know every area is a little bit different, but some people, some agents are required to list their DRE number, their Department of Real Estate number. So again, you don't have a whole lot of real estate, but we want to use that, you know, inside of your bio. I kind of like to list out my bio. I also use emojis in my bio, which I find is kind of a fun way to showcase who you are. Now, also with your bio, you're allowed 1 link, and there's really only 1 live link in all of Instagram. So a lot of people in their bio put the link to their website or their Facebook page. I actually like to use a free tool called Linktree. It's on your screen right there if you're taking notes. It's not a typo, it's actually linktr.ee. And what this allows you to do is to add multiple links in your bio. And I just have an example of what this looks like. So Alana Corso is someone we've worked with for a while. She's in our academy. And if you look at her bio, at the end of her bio, you know, she's got her title and where she works and everything. And then she says more info, and it has Linktree/Alana Corso. If you click on her Linktree, instead of it just being a link to her website, it's a link to multiple links, right? So she's got a link to her new listings. She's got a link to her latest video. She's got a press release link. She's got a link to a buyer that she worked with. She has something called Flamingo Ferry. I don't know what that is. Maybe something fun she's doing in her community. She's got a link to her Facebook page. So I just want to mention this because I think it's a great way to drive traffic to different things that you might have. Maybe it's listings, open houses, community information. And this is why oftentimes when you're on Instagram and you see someone post something, they'll say, click the link in my bio, right? And so instead of always changing it out, you can use a free tool like Linktree. Now, I will say most of what you're going to do on Instagram is done on the phone. It's primarily a mobile app, but there are some things that you can do on your computer. You know, for example, you can edit your profile on your computer on the desktop version of Instagram. And you're looking at a kind of a screenshot of my own Instagram account. Also, when you're on Instagram, whether you're on a desktop or you're on your phone, there's also a couple other key areas that show up when you're on someone's profile. So if you're looking at my profile, you see my picture, you see my bio, and then you see these red dots or these red buttons across the bottom. Those are highlights. And highlights are created through Instagram stories. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but Instagram stories are here today and they disappear in 24 hours, whereas your feed is there permanently. With your stories, though, you can take some of your stories and add them to your highlights, which make them more permanent. So for example, if you go on my bio and you look at some of my highlights, I have highlights around videos I've created, my podcasts I have, speaking events I've done, again, wine that I love, information about our academy, our family, our team, things like that. We'll talk more about highlights as we get through the presentation today, but those are, again, right kind of in the middle of your bio, and you can create those actually right within Instagram, which is kind of cool. And then below that, you'll see an additional section. These are all the different sections of Instagram. So we have posts that are in the feed. We have Instagram guides, which are like curated guides that you can create with your posts, which is actually kind of fun. We have Instagram Reels, which is fairly new. In fact, this is one of the newer items when it comes to Instagram. It's very similar to TikTok. If you're familiar with TikTok, don't worry, I'm not going to recommend you become like the next dancing realtor. I don't think you need to do that, but we are going to talk about Reels today. Reels is a great way to express your creativity. It's also a great way to expand your reach. It's getting a really high level of engagement right now. There's IGTV, which is longer form video that's longer than a minute. And if you are already creating longer form video, IGTV is a great place to put it. Then we have saved. So these are things that you might have saved as you're scrolling through your feed, and you might save things. And then there's a section for tagged. So when you're tagged in things. So like I said, Instagram has changed a lot. It used to just be like a photo sharing app, and it's evolved quite a bit, especially over the past few years. So we've talked about your bio. I'm going to get into content in a minute, but before I even talk about content, I really want to talk about the power of engaging with people. I'm often asked, how do I increase my following? How do I get business from Instagram? And really one of the number one things to think about is you have to be more interested in others than yourself. And this is actually advice I would give you on any platform, whether we're talking about Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. It's not just post and run. And so there's a lot of value in taking time to engage with others to increase your following and build your brand. Social media is not a one-way street. You have to give to get. So there's 2 tips I would give you to help increase your engagement. Number 1, as you search Instagram and you search for your prospects and your clients, if you see that there's people on Instagram that are like your A+ clients, those people that you love that have given you a lot of business over the years, you can turn notifications on for those clients or those prospects, which means when they post, you'll be one of the first people to see that they posted something. Now, we don't want to like everything. We don't want to be creepy. We don't want to be that person. But if there's a handful of folks in your network, again, whether it's your clients, your prospects, maybe even local leaders, local businesses that you love, you can turn those notifications on to be some of the first people to engage with that content. You can also do something called Focus 5. This is something really easy to do. I do this each and every day. Before I post to Instagram, I'll take 5 minutes. I'll open up my feed and I'll scroll through Instagram and I'll look for 5 people that I can connect with, 5 people that I can like on their post or leave a comment or engage with them in some way. Now, again, we don't want to be a drive-by liker. We don't want to just like pop in like a bunch of things and then leave, but take a few minutes to engage with people. And what I would encourage you to do is not just like, but actually leave meaningful comments. And in the world of Instagram, a meaningful comment is a comment that's at least 4 words. At least 4 words. So instead of saying congrats or great pic, you might say, congrats, Tammy, I'm so happy for you and your family. Or wow, Kate, that's a great pic. Where did you take that? Do you see how that feels a little different, right? I used their name. I said more than a word or 2. And that's a way to really build that engagement, right? It's this kind of whole idea of give to get. Now, a bonus tip I would give you, in addition to just engaging with people you're already following on Instagram, one of the ways we see agents and brokers really growing their Instagram is to search out local locations. Instagram search has gotten even better than ever before. So you can search out, local golf courses, local country clubs, local farmers markets. Like, where is your ideal client? Where are they hanging out? And you can search those locations within Instagram, and then you can see who's posting in those areas, who's going to your favorite coffee shop. And that could be an opportunity to like, comment, interact, and meet new people. Now, by the way, when you do that, they're going to go, who is that? And they're going to click on your account. They're going to see who you are. That's why it's important to have your bio filled out. So again, searching for local locations and really expanding your reach can be a really positive thing. And part of what we're talking about here is relationships, right? Relationships are everything. Relationships are built with these small, tiny interactions over the course of time. It's just like in real life. You meet someone for the first time and then you run into the grocery store and then you realize that your kids go to the same school and then you become friends on Instagram, and we build these little relationships, these relationships through all these little actions over the course of time. Every like, every comment, every share, it adds up. And to be honest with you, it's one of the reasons why I love the real estate industry. I love that for most people, buying and selling a home is one of the biggest moments of their life. It's right up there with getting married or having kids. And we know that it's a relationship business. And so, especially this last year and a half, we really struggled with not being as face-to-face with people as we could be. And as, things start to go back to normal, as we start to become face-to-face with people, it's still really important to think about how can we be intentional online to build those relationships. Okay, so let's get into content. So content is always kind of the number one question that people ask me, like, what should I post, right? And I think it's important to kind of take a step back to think about, what do you like to see on Instagram? Like, what would get you to like? What gets you to comment on something? And what gets you to share something, right? And I think when we kind of think about it from the other person's viewpoint, it can change how we think about our content. And so this is why I think it's really important to have a balance of content. Now, some of your content is going to be business related, right? It's going to be about your listings, your open houses, right? That's perfectly fine. That's what your business is all about. There's also going to be promotional type content. Maybe you are, promoting a first-time homebuyer seminar that you're doing, or maybe you've got a great testimonial that you want to share, or you've got a picture of you and your client at the closing table, right? That's all business related. And that, depending on what type of content that is, we'll probably get a fair number of likes, comments, interaction. In terms of people saving and sharing your content, that's where things like educational content comes in, where you're helping people and giving people some information, right? So maybe you're giving the 5 biggest tips that you can give first-time home buyers, or the 5 biggest mistakes that every first-time home buyer makes, or what are the 10 things that people need to know if they're moving in or out of Ventura County, right? That type of educational and informative content is content that tends to get shared. It tends to get saved. Then we have inspirational content, right? Things that make us feel good, like inspirational quotes, or things that are funny. Whether it's a meme. I think sometimes we have to be careful with things that are funny. We don't want to offend anyone. I find, to be honest with you, the best type of humor, if you want a tip on how to be funny on Instagram or social media, the best type of content to be funny is when you can be self-deprecating, when you can turn the joke on yourself. I remember just a few months ago, I remember leaving the house and I was in a rush and I looked down and I had on 2 different pairs of shoes. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of you, but I thought it was kind of ridiculous. So I took a picture and I posted it to Instagram. Well, that post blew up, right? People are laughing. You're like, oh my gosh, I've done that before. Haha. So, again, sometimes when we can kind of turn the joke on ourselves, it's a great way to be engaging. Now, what does that have to do with business? It doesn't. But the reality is real estate's a people business. We do business with people we know, like, and trust and relate to. And that relatability, that's where Instagram can make a really, really big impact in that. The other piece of content that I think is super helpful is community content, where you can shine the light on people in your community. And the reality is that there's a lot of small businesses that we know that are still really hurting. They're still working on bouncing back. So what if part of your strategy, you thought to yourself, well, maybe once a week or once a month, I could shout out my favorite coffee shop, my favorite hair salon, my favorite boutique, my favorite restaurant. And 9 times out of 10, when you do that, when you tag a local business, when you give them a shout out, they're so grateful. Oftentimes they'll share that back with their network. Which is such a win-win. And especially if you're someone who doesn't have listings right now and you're not working with buyers and sellers, or maybe you're new to real estate, community content is always a great thing to post that's really relevant for your audience as well. The other thing I would say as far as content is get yourself into a routine, time block. A lot of the folks we work with will just set aside time on their schedule to do social media, whether it's Instagram or any platform. I find that if it's not on the schedule, it doesn't happen. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I just find that if you don't put it in your schedule, oftentimes doesn't happen. It doesn't mean you have to post every single day of the week. I actually had a really good conversation recently with someone from Instagram. Yes, I actually talked to a real live person who worked at Instagram, and we spoke about the algorithm and how to be relevant. And one of the things she talked about is that you don't necessarily have to post every single day, but posting around the same time of day makes a big difference, right? Posting around the same time of day makes a difference. So if you can get yourself into a routine, maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m., or maybe it's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at lunchtime, whatever it might be, the time of day isn't necessarily important, but that consistency, right? And consistency makes a huge difference. The other thing I'm going to talk about later today is hashtags. Hashtags definitely help to increase your reach. They help to get you more found. And so I'm going to give you some tips on that in a minute. A quick bonus tip. I absolutely love using the app WordSwag. It's on your screen right here if you're taking notes. There's a free version of WordSwag. There's also a paid version. If you're someone who likes to share inspirational quotes, maybe you like to do a Monday motivation or a Wednesday wisdom, WordSwag is awesome. There's a whole inspirational quote library. You don't have to Google quotes. You could just open up WordSwag and there's tons of different quotes from inspiring to funny to whatever you want. And then there's also a whole stock photo library. So if you want to find a beautiful photo of the beach or a front door or whatever you're looking for, you can do that with WordSwag. So that's a really fun picture. If you're looking at your screen right here, that image, "We rise by lifting others," I created that in WordSwag. Took like 2 minutes, found the quote, found the picture, put on Instagram. And you can see, again, that type of post, I'm not going to post inspirational quotes all the time, but they tend to get a high level of engagement, right? That particular post got 300 something likes, which also helps your other posts. right? When you have a piece of content that gets a high level of reach, it helps your other posts, it helps your listings, your open houses, those other pieces of content that may not get as many likes, if that makes sense. All right. Okay. I also want to just point out a couple other things that I think are important, especially when we're talking about posts in your feed. So when you're looking at posts in the feed, I just want to kind of point out a couple key things that you're looking at. So I've got a screenshot here of a quote that I put up on Instagram, just an inspirational quote. And there's a few circles that you're looking at. So if you're looking at your screen, every single post that you post on Instagram, at the top right corner of that post, there's these 3 little dots. And when you click on those 3 little dots, a menu to your right pops up. So this is where you can delete your post. Like if you accidentally posted something that you didn't mean to post, you could delete it. And then there's a number of different things. But one of the things that some people don't realize is that you can see story reshares. So what that means is you can see who took your post and shared it to your story or to their story. Now, if you go to Instagram and you don't see this, that means no one shared your content. So if you go to Instagram and you go to a post and go, wait, I don't see that button, Katie. It might be because no one has shared your post. Typically, the type of posts that get a high level of shares are inspirational quotes, things that are funny, or things that are really informative and timely, like events or educational information. So it's just kind of a bonus tip. And I mentioned this, I'm going to talk more about stories in a minute. This is actually even a little bit more of an advanced tip, but what I find is that when people share content from their feed to their story, the person who posted that post originally never is really notified unless you tag them. And so that's why it's kind of interesting to look to see, who shared my post. And I often will reach out to the person and say, hey, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate it. Also within Instagram, and a lot of you I know are familiar with this, at the bottom of your post, you can look at your insights. So you can look at your analytics for each piece of your content. The heart is like the like, right, for Facebook. It's like liking content within Instagram. There's a comment, and then that little arrow, that little airplane icon, that's how people share. So as you're scrolling through your feed, if you've turned on your notifications for your favorite coffee shop or your chamber of commerce or whatever it might be, and you see, wow, there's a great event happening this weekend that, the Chamber of Commerce posted, well, you can share that over to your feed as well. And then that little arrow, that little kind of flag thing on the right-hand side, that's how people save content. And so what's interesting about that is you may not see a whole lot of people liking or commenting your content, but people might be saving your content, which is really interesting. And I'm actually going to talk more about that towards the end here today. When you have a business Instagram, you can look at your analytics and you can see, how many people are liking my content, how many people are commenting, and how many people are saving, which is really interesting. I actually love the save feature myself. When I'm scrolling through Instagram, you can save things. Like if you see something and you just want to save it to read later, you can save it and you can actually add it to what's called a collection. So, I know there's a lot of folks who like to shop on Instagram, but maybe you're not ready to buy something right away. You could save something and add it to a shopping collection over on Instagram, or maybe you are, looking for some home decorating tips. And so you could save posts that you see to a home decorating collection that you have saved. So not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but there's a lot of little pieces, I think, with Instagram that people don't always realize are available. And like I said, things have changed quite a bit. Another thing that I want to just point out that's really relevant right now are carousel posts. So if you've been active on Instagram, you've probably seen these. These are like the multi-photo posts within Instagram, right? You can post photos, you can post videos, and you can also post multi-photos. So for example, if you look at your screen here, this is one we did recently with just kind of a, sort of inspirational quote tip that I've often shared, that don't set it and forget it. I often say when it comes to social media. And we posted it as a carousel, which means when you're scrolling through Instagram, it's 3 photos back to back. Now it's the same photo, it's the same graphic. It's just 3 different colors. It's in our brand colors. And I mentioned this because what's interesting about carousel posts is when you are scrolling through Instagram. So let's say I'm scrolling through Instagram, right? And I'm just going to look at, Ryan. Ryan Bruns. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, Ryan, but you happen to be on my screen here because your camera's on. So let's say I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see Ryan's carousel post. Maybe he did a carousel post of his latest listing and he's got like 7 or 8 photos. Well, let's say I just keep scrolling by and I don't do anything. I don't even engage with it. Because he did a carousel post, the next time I'm on Instagram, I'm probably going to see his post again. I'm probably going to see it again because it's not going to just show me the first photo. Now it's going to show me the second one in my carousel or in his carousel. So I just mentioned that because, you know, getting your content seen again by your followers, by people who you're connected with, using carousel posts where you're doing these sort of multi-photo posts, whether it's a listing and you're sharing 5 to 7 photos, or you're sharing one graphic that's maybe an inspirational quote and you just changed out the colors. There's a reason why people are doing that. And right now, that's one of the top pieces of content. So video is a big thing, which we'll talk about in a minute. But carousel posts are also kind of a big thing right now too, which is kind of cool. So I don't think a lot of people realize that. Okay, so we've talked about content, we've talked about engaging with people. I want to talk a little bit about video for just a quick second, because when you post video content to Instagram, video helps to answer the question of what does it feel like to work with you, right? What does it feel like to work with you? And oftentimes I'll go to an agent or broker's Instagram account, and it doesn't matter if they are in, you know, Oxnard or they're in Ohio or they're anywhere in the United States. A lot of times I see the exact same things. I usually see listings, open houses, and I see a lot of like generic stock sort of photography or sort of like stock templates that, you know, someone's created. But a lot of times what's missing is, what do they sound like? And what do they stand for? And what are they all about? Now, I know when it comes to video that a lot of us, we don't like how we look. We don't like how we sound. We're not sure how to do it, so that we don't do it. Well, I had a good friend of mine a few years ago, very lovingly remind me. She was like, Katie, that's how you look. And that's how you sound. So you got to get over it. So I will lovingly tell you the same thing because, you know, video content on Instagram tends to perform heads and tails better than anything. And not just Instagram, right? Really any platform right now, video content is where it's at. I would also say when it comes to video content that when you do video content on a consistent basis, maybe it's once or twice a week where you're getting on camera and you're sharing something really helpful, or you're, you know, giving an informative tip, or you're talking about something in your local community, over the course of time, the leads you get from that content are so much better, right? People talk about, how do I generate leads from social media? How do I generate leads from Instagram or YouTube or any platform? And it's a big part of that is putting your own voice out there, your own personality, which also means that you may not be everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay, right? Like, I'm a big believer, there's enough business for all of us. And so, you know, part of this is, like I said, kind of leaning into who you are and who you're not, and putting your personality out there. So I'm going to give you some more tips and ideas, because if you're wondering, well, what kind of video content, I've got some ideas for you in just a second, I promise. Okay, so far so good. We're kind of about, let me look at my time here really quick. See how we're doing on time. Okay, we're doing good. Thumbs up if we're doing good. Yes, have we learned something? Are we fired up yet? Okay, good. All right, if you joined us a little bit late, welcome. We are teaching Instagram. So I've got probably another good like 30 minutes to go, just a heads up. So if you guys have questions, write those down. We'll get to those at the end, I promise, here today. Okay, I promised you I would talk about hashtags. Let's talk about that really quickly, because hashtags, I find people still get confused about hashtags and what they are. Hashtags are really one of two things, right? Hashtags are either something silly, like hashtag just saying, hashtag sorry, not sorry, right? They're like something you say under your breath, or they're actually something that means something relevant, like, you know, hashtag, you know, Thousand Oaks home, or, you know, Ventura County homes, or hashtag, you know, Oxnard homes, things like that. They're either something funny or there's something relevant. So let's talk about the something relevant when it comes to hashtags. A few tips that I'd recommend, whether you're new to hashtags or whether you are just kind of working on improving your hashtags. Search your local town, community, your local city. I like to use local, lifestyle, and real estate related hashtags. If you just use real estate hashtags, like if you just use Ventura County Realtor, if you just use Realtor, you're just going to attract other realtors. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of folks get a lot of business on Instagram through referral partners. But just know your hashtags shouldn't just be real estate related, right? So I'm going to give you some examples of that in just a minute here. Use up to 15 to 30 per post. You can use up to 30. The latest research shows that less is more. So I would actually say probably like 10 to 15 per post is great. I like to just keep a running list. You can keep a running list on your phone or like a Google document. You can also use, there's a great free resource if you're looking at your screen. This is a great link to write down. It's hashtagify.me, hashtagify.me. There's a paid version of it, but the free version is great too. And that'll help you increase, just kind of figure out the best hashtags for what your content is all about. So I just want to kind of show a couple examples here. I mentioned in the very beginning that most of what you do on Instagram is going to happen on your phone, but there are a couple things that you can do on your computer. And one of these things is some hashtag research. So you go onto your computer and you can search. For example, if I just search hashtag realtors, well, 2.8 million people are using hashtag realtors. That's a really big hashtag. I probably wouldn't use that hashtag because millions of people are using that hashtag. I personally find it's better to use hashtags that are a little bit smaller in the maybe tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, which is still a lot to get found. So for example, if I was an agent in Thousand Oaks, I might search hashtag Thousand Oaks to see what else comes up, right? Hashtag Thousand Oaks, hashtag Thousand Oaks Strong, hashtag Thousand Oaks Real Estate. And you see, obviously you want to look to see what's relevant for you and your content. Ventura, same thing. You could search hashtag Ventura, which has 1.8 million, but hashtag Ventura County, 700,000. Hashtag Ventura, California, 64,000, right? And, doing some of that research to see which are some of the best hashtags for your specific market that you're doing. And using the right hashtags ultimately is going to grow your following. But I will say that it's not about getting thousands of followers. It's really about getting the right followers. And if you're sharing anything to Instagram, this is a great thing to take a screenshot of and post. And again, feel free to tag me if you'd like. I'm not here to say you need to become the next Instagram influencer. I don't think you need to have 1 million followers or hundreds of thousands of followers. I think it's about getting the right followers, right? The right connections who are going to connect with you. So we talked a lot about your feed. I want to talk a little bit about stories. So there's kind of two big parts of Instagram, right? There's your feed, which are permanent. I look at your feed as kind of like your resume, your website, and then your stories are a way to tell your behind the scenes. And they're also a great way to connect with your audience. Now, when you're on Instagram, the feed is that, kind of just scrolls all the way through. That's your feed. The stories are up at the top. And you can see little circles when you're on Instagram. They're like little bubbles up at the top. I like to, again, kind of think about my stories as sort of a way to tell the backstory. Now, the thing is, they disappear in 24 hours, but you can add them to your highlights to have them last forever, to have them last longer. What's interesting about stories is when people interact with your stories, it goes to your DMs, it goes to your direct message. So if I look at your stories and you've posted about your garden, or you've posted about your cat or your dog, or you've posted about your latest listing, if I comment in your stories, that actually goes to your DMs, that goes to your direct message, which I actually think is pretty cool. And that's actually a great way to build a relationship with somebody, right? That one-to-one connection. And when it comes to stories, every time you're posting a story, those little bubbles that you see up across the top of your feed, your bubble gets pushed to the front. So I don't think you necessarily need to post, you don't need to document your entire day. You don't need to document your entire life, but think about posting maybe once or twice in the morning, once or twice in the afternoon, maybe once or twice in the evening, and kind of show people, again, sort of that behind the scenes of what happened as you're out and about. To give an example, if, for example, when you have a new listing, if you have a new listing, you're going to post some beautiful photos, right? Maybe you're going to post 5 to 7 photos in your feed, right? Like maybe you're going to do a carousel post like I talked about, or maybe you're going to do a video. But your story is kind of the backstory. It's like a day or two in advance, and you're in the car and you're on the way to meet the client and you're meeting the photographer. Don't do a story while you're driving, but kind of that behind the scenes, again, sort of that story behind the story. I have a few things circled here on the screen right here. When you're doing stories, you can add pictures right from your phone. And you can also add other things like GIFs and stickers. You can add polls, and you can add all kinds of fun interactive things to really get people to interact with your stories. I find that, one of the best ways to get engagement on Instagram is to use some of the engagement stickers and stories and polls that they have. So, you can ask, simple polls. And I know I've got a few, I didn't realize my cat Rex was going to be on here so much, but he is featured quite a bit on my Instagram. So if you have pets are great for engagement. But just asking simple questions, are you a cat person or a dog person? Where do you want to go on vacation, here or there? I find oftentimes with Instagram that people will use polls and they'll use some of the interactive features, but they ask questions that people aren't naturally going to answer. right? They'll ask like, are you thinking of buying or selling real estate? Well, that's a really big question to ask on Instagram, right? I probably wouldn't respond. But if you say, hey, are you more a cat person or a dog person? I'm probably going to pick something, right? Now, why is that important? What's the business reason behind that? The more you get and have people interacting with you, again, the more your content's going to get seen by more people. It's just, part of the whole algorithm. I think a couple people might be unmuted. If you guys wouldn't mind just muting yourself. I heard maybe one or two. Could be myself, but we're gonna open it up to questions here in about 15 minutes here. Okay, there's also some additional new features, which is great. So we talked about your feed, we talked about stories. Reels are a huge thing. And I definitely would encourage you, if you've been on Instagram a while and you want to take your Instagram to the next level, it's time to jump on Reels. So they're up to 30 seconds long. A couple tips I would give you when it comes to Reels. Reels move really fast. So when you're watching Reels, a lot of times it's like short little clips, it's music, it's fun, it's playful. One of the ways to really increase the views to your Reels is to use trending or fun music to keep people engaged. You also want to have some sort of caption or call to action, right? So if you see a Reel that I do, I might say something like, hey, read the caption below for more information, right? So you might give a quick, hey, real estate tip in 30 seconds tip. Hey, read the caption below for more information, right? So you can have some sort of call to action like that. Hashtags still important as well. And when you're on Reels, or when you created Reels, there's a whole tab on your Instagram that will show some of the Reels that you've done. And at some point, if you're looking for some Reels inspiration, feel free to scroll through and see some of the Reels that we've done. I tend to, again, I'm not going to sing and dance. That's not my, that's not my thing. But I tend to, because our business is social media, a lot of what I'm teaching are quick tips and helpful information. It's kind of like what we talked in the beginning, being a giver and being helpful. That's one way to attract business to you. So you don't necessarily need to be on camera as well. That's another kind of fun tip when it comes to Reels. You could showcase a listing. You could showcase, your community. And so I would just encourage you to look at what other people are doing in other markets as well and get some inspiration for that. You can also stay really consistent with your colors and your branding on Reels as well as your stories. I love within GIFs, you can search different colors. So our colors are red, teal, white. And so you can search your brand colors for Instagram stories and also Reels. You can also search for things like welcome home or good morning. And that movement, those little stickers and GIFs, they tend to just keep people engaged. They tend to just help with your engagement in terms of people interacting with your content. The other piece of content on Instagram, told you I had a lot today, guys. The other piece of content is IGTV. So IGTV is longer form video. It's video that you have that's up to 15 minutes. If you're doing Instagram Live, you can save that Instagram Live to IGTV. You can add auto captions. And what I like about this is if you're already creating video content, maybe you're doing some video content that you're putting on YouTube or Facebook, why not also repurpose it and put it on IGTV? I look at IGTV as a great way to build your library of content, just like you would on YouTube or any other video platform. And when you're putting those longer form videos up on IGTV, you can still share that over to your story. You can still share a preview of that in your newsfeed as well. All right, I promised I would share with you a way to get organized because we've talked about a lot today, right? We talked about your feed and stories and GIFs and content and all kinds of good stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about getting systemized because at the end of the day, you're a full-time agent or broker. You don't need to be spending all day long on Instagram. So let's give you some help when it comes to your schedule. I'm a big believer when it comes to not just Instagram, but social media in general, to think beyond the now. And I really believe that this starts with your pillar content. So pillar content, to kind of take a step outside Instagram for a second, pillar content is something that you create that might take a little bit of time, money, energy. It's content in your voice that has your opinion, your personality. And it's also content that you could put on multiple platforms. Video content is a great example of that. Video content works well on Instagram, but it works on Facebook and it works on YouTube, it works on LinkedIn. Podcast content, if you're a podcaster, you enjoy podcast content, that's a great piece of content. That's kind of a pillar piece of content. If you're someone who likes to write, blog content is a great piece of pillar content. And I just mentioned this, even though we're talking about Instagram here today, because as much as I love Instagram and social media is rented ground. Social media is rented ground. We don't own it. So as much as we can talk about all the different features within Instagram, it's also important, I think, to take a step back to make sure the long-term goal here is to create some assets that we own that go with us no matter what. If Instagram shuts down tomorrow, we'll be fine, right? Because we've got content that we've created that can go with us wherever we go. I would also say too, your email database, also super important, right? That's a whole nother conversation, maybe another webinar for another day. So I'm going to give you an example of what this looks like when you take a piece of pillar content and what does that look like on Instagram. So I've got here a 7-day schedule. Now, again, I don't necessarily think you need to post every single day. I don't think you have to be, using every single piece of Instagram, but I'm just sharing with you an example here of what this would look like if you decided to create one piece of pillar content once a week. Maybe you're listening to this going, okay, this makes a lot of sense. I'm going to create one video once a week. Awesome. Maybe you decide to do like a Tip Tuesday or something. Okay, cool. So let me show you what that would look like on Instagram. And I'm going to show you how you could take that one video and turn it into 7 different posts on Instagram. So Tuesday could be that real estate tip, right? You post a 1-minute clip of that into your Instagram feed, and then you share that over to your stories. A couple days later go by. You post the full video on IGTV, and then you share that IGTV video over to your stories as well. Now, I'll just mention for a minute, I know some of you have never shared the same thing on Instagram or Facebook more than once, right? We think to ourselves, well, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to spam people. But the reality is, I can't remember what I had for breakfast 2 days ago, let alone what I saw on Instagram or Facebook. Not only that, but there's more noise and information flowing on social media than ever before. So there's nothing wrong with resharing and repurposing content, which is exactly what we're talking about here today. A couple days go by, you could take a short clip of that longer video, maybe a 15-second clip, and put that up as a Reels on Instagram. A day or two later on Sunday, you could take that same content and turn that into a carousel post, right? Take some of the content and make it into a carousel post. Maybe use a tool like Canva to create some graphics and again, share that to your story. So now we have like one piece of meaty content, pillar content that's turned into 7 different posts, and then we can fill in from there. And so the next slide is going to show you, in addition to that, what else you could post. Now, again, you don't have to post 7 days a week, but I just want to give you some examples of what else you could post, right? Monday might be a Monday market update where you're sharing something about the market. Maybe you're sharing something that the association shared, or maybe you're sharing something that your broker shared. Wednesday might be Wednesday wisdom, like an inspirational quote. Thursday might be Throwback Thursday, something fun from the past that you're sharing. Friday might be Featured Friday, where you're featuring a local business. Maybe Saturday is featuring your open houses for the weekend, or your virtual open houses if you're doing virtual open houses, or new listings that you have, things like that. So again, it's this idea of thinking beyond the now. And I mentioned earlier this idea of time blocking. I really recommend, if you are really thinking about how to integrate Instagram into your business, and maybe this all feels a little overwhelming, start with setting aside a little bit of time. Set aside 5 or 10 minutes a day to do Focus 5, where you're scrolling through your feed and you're connecting with, 5 or so people each day. And then set aside maybe 30 minutes once a week to create some of this content, to schedule some of it. And I'm going to share a couple of my favorite scheduling tools here in just a minute. It doesn't mean you're going to set it and forget it. It doesn't mean you're going to automate everything, but it's about getting yourself into a system, right? Sound good? Was this helpful so far? Was good? All right, cool. Awesome. Is it helpful to see like a schedule laid out? I don't know about you guys, but I feel like if I just look at a blank calendar, it's really intimidating. It's a lot easier to look at, something that's kind of already filled out, and then you can kind of take what works best for you guys. Okay, a couple other things I want to share. Some of you who maybe have been in some of our webinars here before, we also have a free content grid. If you've never downloaded this before, the link is at the bottom of your screen. It's katielance.com/content grid. I just wanted to share this in this webinar here today because, this is a great free resource that we published. We actually just updated it for 2021. If you go to that link, it's going to ask for your name and email. I promise we won't spam you, but it'll ask for your name and email. Put that in, and then we'll send this to you. It's a PDF that has about 30 content ideas that you can use for Instagram, but you can also use for anywhere else that you're active over on social media. And at the end here today, I'm going to share, I've got a couple links. I'll share this link at the end today too in the chat, just so you guys have that. Okay, let's see here. All right, let me go into a few more things and look at our time here. We've got about 9 more minutes, so we'll open it up to questions. So when's the best time to post to Instagram? I want to just kind of share a little bit about analytics real quick. Again, in the very beginning, I said it's really valuable to have a business account because you can look at your analytics, you can look at your insights, and you can see what are your demographics? When are people on Instagram? And I recommend looking at this data, and then you can start to engage with people. If you see that your audience is more likely to be online at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m., that's going to give you some great insight to when you should post or when you should schedule your content and when you should engage with people. This is all free and this is all available right within Instagram. A couple other things that are really cool with Instagram Insights. I mentioned earlier this idea of evaluating what's worked in the past and what hasn't worked. And this is especially for those of you who've been on Instagram a long time. I was looking recently, I honestly think I've been on Instagram like 10 years, which is crazy to me, maybe not that long, but I've been on there a long time. You can go into your insights and you can search to see what posts in the last year or 2 years had the highest reach. You can also see which posts had the biggest amount of likes, which posts had the highest number of shares, which posts had the most saves, right? Remember earlier I talked about like, comment, share, save. And I'm just a big believer of like, if something worked a year ago and it's still relevant, why not repost it, right? If I posted a motivational quote 6 months ago and it got a lot of comments and engagement, why wouldn't I post it again, right? I think sometimes we're always like trying to reinvent the wheel, which is important. And I want to share just a super quick example here. I did this recently with 2 posts. I went back, I'm always like experimenting and always, looking to see what works and what doesn't work. I went into my own insights. And if you look at this quote on the left-hand side, you guys see this, it says, "They told me I could, and that's why I did." I love that quote. So this particular quote, I posted this maybe about a year ago. It got a ton of engagement. I think I had like 300 or 400 likes. A lot of people saved it, shared it, etc. So I reshared it. I reshared it on my feed and I just changed the caption, right? I wrote a caption about like, who doesn't need a little motivation? It's been a nutty year. We can always use a little inspiration, right? I added some hashtags. And again, keep in mind, this was a post I had already posted 6 months or a year or whatever before. And I reposted again and it ended up getting about 380 or so likes, right? A lot of engagement. Another example is Reels. So I have a lot of video over on IGTV. I've been putting IGTV videos over there for quite some time. I just have a lot of longer form video that's up to 15 minutes. So when Reels first came out, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to try a little bit of an experiment. So I went to some of my older IGTV videos. These are things that I posted a year or 2 ago, but we're still relevant. And some of you are going to laugh at this, but I went to an older IGTV video. I did a screen recording on my phone. So I don't know if this works for Android, but I know on iPhone, you can just hit a button and like record your screen. So I screen recorded like 30 seconds of this video. This is super low tech, right? We're not like no fancy video editing. I just screen recorded an old video that I did 30 seconds. I put it up on Reels and I said, hey guys, here's a clip of a video. I posted this 2 years ago. It's still relevant. If you'd like me to share the full length, let me know in the comments below. This video, this silly little screen recorded video got 2,600 views on Instagram Reels. So I'm just sharing this with you as an example of like, I think sometimes we just overthink stuff, right? If something works in the past, there's no reason why we can't repurpose that content today, right? All right. A couple other quick tips here. I've got a couple quick tips and apps, and then we're going to open up to questions here in a second. I've said this a few times, extend the life out of every post by repurposing, resharing your content. If you're intimidated at all by the idea of repurposing, one of the easiest things you can do to start is just every time you post something in your feed, share it to your story, right? Share it to your story. Upload videos that you've shared on Facebook or YouTube over to IGTV, even if they're older videos. Maybe you've got a great video from a year ago of an incredible listing you had. Why not put that on IGTV? And you could, in your caption, say, here's an example of an amazing, client we worked with a year ago, and this is the kind of marketing we do. And if you're curious about how we work with clients, let me know, right? So if you've already got content, think about repurposing that. Again, you might look at your older Instagram stories and take some of those older stories and put those into Reels, things like that. A little bonus tip, one of my favorite apps, there's an app called Repost. If you go into the App Store, either iPhone or Android, you can find the Repost app. It's free. And this will allow you to repost other people's content by giving them credit, right? So if you follow a local artist, or you follow, your local lender, or you follow your local photographer, and they're posting something really great, and you want to share that from their feed to your feed, you can use Repost to do that, and you're giving them credit as well, which is great. A few of my favorite apps, because I always get asked about apps. So these are some great ones to write down if you're taking notes. Canva is kind of like my go-to. It's like my ride or die for when I'm creating content, especially for Instagram. There's a free version that you can do a ton with. There's also a pro version. What I love about Instagram is you can resize, or what I love about Canva is you can resize your content really easily within Canva. There's tons of templates that you can personalize and really make your own. WordSwag, I talked about earlier, that's a great app that you can use to create that inspirational content right on your phone. Video, like I said, video is one of the top pieces of content. So if you're looking for a great app to edit your video, Video Shop is great. I used that for quite some time. There's a free version, there's a paid version. You can use that on iPhone or Android. I love with Video Shop, you can just kind of trim your videos a little bit and add a logo or do a voiceover if you want to do a voiceover video, things like that. Later.com is what I use to schedule my Instagram content. I don't schedule everything, but I do find that, just like I said earlier, getting yourself into a system when it comes to scheduling content makes a difference. There's a free version of Later. There's also a paid version. And what I also like about Later is you can do a lot of it from your computer. So, Instagram is primarily a mobile app, and sometimes it's hard to, type a long caption out on your mobile app. So you can do a lot on your computer through using Later. There's also, and this isn't on your screen here, but a lot of people also use Facebook Creator Studio. Facebook Creator Studio, since Facebook owns Instagram, Facebook Creator Studio is free. And if you're posting similar content to Facebook and Instagram, that's also another option. So just Facebook Creator Studio, you can Google that. It'll take you right to that free tool. And then lastly, Unfold. Unfold is an app that's free, and this is for Instagram stories. So if you're looking for some really cool templates, like maybe you've got an amazing luxury listing and you want to tell the story about that listing, or maybe you want to do a story over the weekend about your local neighborhood or your local community, and you don't want to just you don't want to just do a regular story. Maybe you want to enhance it a little bit, have some fun, templates and layouts. Unfold is a really fun app that will just give you a lot of creativity. So just a quick recap, I want to give you guys 5 things to take away here today, and especially if you joined us a few minutes late, these are the 5 big things I want you to take away. And then we're going to open up to questions. So feel free to start typing your questions in the chat here, and we'll open that up in just 1 second. So 5 quick things: make the best first impression with your Instagram account and bio. Number 2, engage with people on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to increase your following and build your brand. Number 3, extend the life of your posts by repurposing and resharing your content. Work smarter, not harder. Number 4, choose the right hashtags to maximize your reach, expand your sphere. And number 5, evaluate what's worked in the past and what hasn't worked in the past. And, as I said earlier, people do business with people they know, like, and trust and relate to, right? It's that relatability that I think can really make a big difference when it comes to Instagram. I also want you to keep this in mind, that social media is a marathon, not a sprint, whether we're talking about Instagram, Facebook, any platform. I can't promise that you can go on Instagram today and start posting and then get 12 new leads tomorrow. It's not going to happen. But, as we look at the calendar, we're in the middle of July. I don't know where the year went. Like, the year is flying by, right? And so what I would encourage you to do is take 1 or 2 things that you learned today, start implementing those right away, and then think ahead. Are you on track for your goals for the year? If you are, that's great. And if you're not, the good news is it's not too late. And there are so many great opportunities with Instagram that you can start to do today that will help you, 2, 3, 4 months down the road. And imagine being at the end of the year and saying, gosh, what a great year we had. I remember back in July when we started implementing this and this, and wow, look how it made an impact in our business. So I promise we're going to open up to questions. I just want to share with you guys a couple quick links, and I'm actually going to put these links. I'm going to see if I can put these links in the chat. We actually put together a whole Instagram guide. So if you're listening to this going, okay, maybe you're needing some more information, some more examples. If you go to katielance.com/Instaguide, it's a free digital PDF that you can put your name and email in. We'll send that to you. You can print that out. And then of course, we'd love to connect with you on Instagram. I've got my email on here also. I check all my own email. So maybe you have a question that you don't want to ask in front of everybody. Feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer your questions here. So, all right, I think I'm going to open it up to questions. And Tammy, do you want people just to unmute themselves, or what would be the best way for us to move forward here with the questions?
Well, we don't have a ton of questions here, so let's just go through the chat first, and then we'll see how much time we have left.
Yeah, perfect.
It starts with, let's see, Jessica says, I've heard that it's bad to use the same hashtags in every post. Is that true?
Ooh, good question. Yes. So, and I'm just trying to find my links really quick so I can share these with you guys and put this in the chat before I forget. Okay, I'm just dropping a bunch of links. And Tammy, I'll email you these links too if you want to email these out to people as well.
That'd be great.
So, is it bad to use the same hashtags? You know, well, let me close that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That way I can be full screen here. Okay. Honestly, yes, I would not use the same hashtags every single time. So what I would recommend is there's probably a few that you do reuse from time to time. I mean, for example, I have kind of built a brand around Get Social Smart, right? And so that's part of my branding. I use that on all my posts. But then depending on what the post is all about, you know, if I'm just doing a fun post that isn't necessarily business related, I'm not going to use all my sort of business related hashtags, right? So I would recommend doing some hashtag research. You might want to kind of break them into groups, have a list. Maybe a lot of people use Google Documents. You could use, you know, you could just keep them on the like a notes app on your phone. But I would say kind of break them up based on, is it a real estate post? Is it a community post? Is it you know, something informative? Is it an inspirational post? And then you have a couple different groupings. I would also say that if you do use later.com, I mentioned, and I'm not affiliated with Later, I just like it. I think it's a great tool. You can actually save groupings of hashtags within Later, which is actually really cool. So if I'm scheduling a post within Later, I can be like, oh, I'm going to use that grouping of hashtags. And I just click a button and then it populates over. So little side benefit. Good question.
Okay, let's see, where'd my chat go? I lost the chat.
I saw a question about.
I did. Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. How do you post a reel?
So the easiest way to post a reel, and I will say reels, they should be available to everyone. However, every once in a blue moon, they're not. But let me just share with you guys really quick. So I'm actually going to try to put my phone up to the screen. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this or not, but I've got my Instagram right here. Hold on. Darken it. I've got my light up, so it's kind of dark here. Hold on a second. So when you're on Instagram, hold on, everything's backwards on Zoom. I know it's really bright here, but you can see my profile here. At the very top, there's a plus button. So when you're on Instagram, go to your profile, click the little plus button. Everything is mirrored and backwards. And when you click the plus button, you're going to have this menu pop up. Sorry, guys. I know it's bright because I've got my light. There we go. So you can see post, reel, story, story highlight, IGTV, live, and guide. So that second button down is reel. So that's where you're gonna hit reel, and you can create it within Reels, or if you've got video on your phone, you can upload those directly into Reels. Now Reels is only 30 seconds, so I'll just give you a quick example. If you want to do a reel about a listing, the next time you're at a listing, like just take out your phone and record a bunch of like 2 or 3 second clips, like a clip of the kitchen, a clip of the family room, a clip of the backyard. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. You go into Reels and you can upload each one of those clips and you can adjust the timing. So it's just like 2 seconds of the kitchen, 2 seconds of the backyard, 2 seconds of the bathroom, whatever it is. You add music, you know, and then you're done. And now you've got something that's really kind of interesting versus like, oh, another house, right? So anyways, that's like a short version of how to do it. But I do have some more tutorials. If you download that Instagram guide that I mentioned, there's some more information in there too about Reels. So it's fun. It takes a little practice. The first few times you do it, it's a little nerve-wracking, just like anything else.
Okay, next question. I know this sounds stupid, but is it easier to do edits and posts on a phone or computer? I didn't even realize the computer was an option.
Yeah, no, not a stupid question at all. So for Instagram, if you're doing any editing and you're using Instagram tools for editing, then you have to do it on your phone. You can't really edit, like if I'm going onto Instagram on my computer, it's very limited what you can do on the computer. You can, edit your profile, you can comment, you can search hashtags. But if I want to add like stickers and GIFs and do that kind of editing through Instagram, it has to be on my phone. However, if you're using some other tool, like maybe you're using a video editing tool like iMovie on your computer, or some other tool on your computer, you could do some editing on your computer, edit whatever you're creating, get it to your phone, and then upload it that way. So it just kind of depends on what tool you're using, if that makes sense, but not a dumb question at all.
Next one, do you have a resource that gives all the graphic sizes for the current platforms? Kind of an all-in-one place for graphic sizes.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't, because it changes all the time. And it's interesting that you said that. I actually recommend, because there was there was definitely a time where, oh my gosh, I mean, there's a gazillion different sizes now, right? For graphics. I tend to create everything in an Instagram size. So if I go into Canva, and I'll just use Canva as an example, because I use that for most of my creations for Instagram, I tend to just pick the Instagram size, which is a square. Mainly because I find a square looks great on Instagram, a square looks great on Facebook, a square looks great on LinkedIn, a square looks great on Twitter, like wherever you're posting it, it looks great. I think where it does get a little wonky is with reels and stories and where things get cut off. So I don't have that guide, but if you do go into Canva, again, I'm not affiliated with Canva, but if you go into Canva and you use any of the templates, they'll show you in there when you're creating with Canva where your text is going to get cut off, right? Like don't go past this line. So I definitely recommend using some of those templates within Reels or within Canva for Reels and stories, just because it gives you those guidelines, if that makes sense. And also Canva has templates for like cover photos. If you want to create a cover photo for Facebook, well, that's a different dimension than like your cover photo for YouTube. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Good question.
Do hashtags work on stories?
Not anymore. They used to. It used to be a thing. Yeah, it used to be where you could put up to 10 and you can still put up to 10 hashtags on a story, but I don't find that they don't do anything. I find that it's more of an aesthetic, like I might put hashtag Get Social Smart only because that's my brand. I'm promoting our academy. I might be talking about my book, but I'm not doing it as a way to like increase reach. So that's definitely something that's changed over time. I don't think that makes a big difference. What I do think makes a big difference with stories, though, is adding your location. You can add your location sticker in stories. You don't have to be super specific, because I know we want to be, just careful of, safety and privacy and things like that. But if you are showcasing a listing in Oxnard, there's no reason why you can't put a little location sticker that says Oxnard so people know exactly what city it's in, that does help. That much more so than hashtags and stories.
On highlights, how do you make the cute, consistent look? Mine is only a picture of the first video.
Yeah, exactly. Good question. So again, back to Canva. I mean, Canva should start paying me, I think. But yeah, you can go into Canva, you can search highlights within Canva. There's tons of templates. I just did it really easily. I mean, I created mine in Canva way before there was even templates. I basically went into Canva and I just created like a vertical frame with my brand color is red. So I picked red, and then I just searched in elements within Canva. You can search icons. So I searched for icons that were relevant to my highlights, like a wine, speaking, cat, whatever, like family, I would search for those. And I just made those in Canva really easily. I also know if you go onto Etsy, for any of you who love Etsy, I'm a big Etsy fan, there are tons of people selling custom highlights, like graphic designers. Obviously you have to pay for it, but if you want to look for something a little bit more designed and you don't want to fiddle around and deal with it, you can go to Etsy.com and just search for Instagram highlights, and you'll see tons of really creative people who are selling graphic designs over there too.
Christina says, it was super helpful in Wondering class. I don't have Instagram. I deleted it because I was antisocial for a time. Then I'm getting back. Thanks for all the tips. I got to go, so take care and best of luck.
Thank you, Christina. I really appreciate that. A lot of folks, especially during this past year and a half, were like, I'm done with social media. A lot, there was just a lot of noise and stuff with everything going on. So it's I think it's been a great time to kind of reevaluate, like, where do you want to be? You don't have to be everywhere, and where does it make sense, to be on online. So I appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words.
And the last question we have here, any thoughts on the pay for followers offers you get all the time?
Oh, okay. Block those people. No, don't do that. It's a scam. I mean, I get them all the time. I would say at least once a day, I'm getting people who, who want me to pay for followers, and they want me to do this and that and whatever. Yeah, don't do it. It's definitely, there are real businesses that do that. It's not worth it. Now it's one thing if you want to do Instagram ads. If you want to pay to do an Instagram ad and you go through Instagram's process of running ads with the goal to build your following, I think that's fine. But these people who are like, I promise you 10,000 followers, I promise I'll get you verified tomorrow, like, it's a scam. So block and delete. And that's my advice for anyone doing anything inappropriate on social every once in a blue moon. Block and delete. We're done.
Anybody else have anything? You got to hear live in person. Ben, it looks like Ben has a question. You want to unmute yourself, Ben?
Hello. Hey, Katie, thanks a lot for this class. This has been really good. I posted 2 questions. Here they are. When doing the hashtags, should they be within the caption, or should they just be at the end?
It honestly doesn't matter. I actually asked the gal I talked to on Instagram a couple of days ago, I asked her that same thing, and she was like, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is you need to do them right away. So whether you do it in the post or whether you do it in the captions, if you go back and do them later, it just doesn't make a big difference. So you need to do them right away. Yeah, so either way.
And then do you have any thoughts on, like, sometimes someone will say where they separate the words using capital letters. So if it's like, I love Ventura, it's like capital I, capital L, then capital V, or does that not even matter?
I mean, from like a searchability standpoint, it doesn't matter at all. I like to sometimes do that because I feel like it makes your post stand out. Like when I post Get Social Smart, I will usually do capital G, capital S, just so people can read it. And if you have a hashtag that you use kind of as part of your branding, like hashtag I love Ventura, I probably would do it, but it's not needed. It's kind of a nice to have.
Got it. And then one more, when posting multiple pictures, is it better to have multiple pictures that you slide left, slide right, or is it to have all of those pictures edited to one picture?
I would rather I think you should do a carousel. Yeah. So
what is that?
So a carousel is like what you said, like sliding right, sliding left.
Okay.
It's a multi-photo picture. So instead of in the past, a lot of people would do like a collage, right? Where you would have like 4 or 5 photos and be like kind of a collage in one picture. I think it's better to post multiple photos where you are swiping through, and give people a reason to swipe through. I mean, a lot of times if I do like today, for example, I did a carousel post today over on my Instagram. I did a couple of them actually, where I said, hey, make sure you swipe through all the way to the end because, of X, Y, and Z. I've got a bonus at the end, or I want to, something like that. Yeah. But it's better to have multiple photos.
Got it. And then last question, at what point do you just realize that you've put in all this time into Instagram? Because I put a lot of time into my social media. At what point do you realize, like, look, I'm not getting anything out of it. It's not making the phone ring anymore. And it's just time to reevaluate. Do you give yourself a year or 6 months? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it needs to be at least 6 months to a year. I mean, social media is really a slow burn, and especially if you're putting out original content, right? If you're putting out kind of the same content that a lot of other people are putting out, and I see this in real estate, there's like this sea of sameness in real estate, right? Like it's time to change your clock, so every realtor posts the same thing, right? Like it's spring back, spring forward, like it's the same thing, right? So that's part of it. It's the people who are willing to put their personality out there, put their opinion out there, put their voice out there a little bit. Again, like you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but generally over the course of time, that's going to help increase the people who want to work with you. They're going to be like, I like that guy, Ben, or I don't like him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I would say a good 6 months to a year. And I would also say too, like pick 1 or 2 platforms and go all in with those. If it's Instagram, great. If it's not, that's okay too. Like pick 1 or 2 that you actually like to be on. And then also, where are your clients hanging out? You know, a lot of people have left Facebook, but a lot of people are still there. A lot of people are on Instagram, but a lot of people aren't there. So it's also a good opportunity to maybe email your database and say, hey, we're working on serving our clients the best way we can through social media. And we're wondering, where are you hanging out? Are you on Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, none of the above? You know? So that's what I'd recommend also.
Hey, thanks a lot, Katie.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Ben. That was great.
Anybody else?
No pressure.
There's a couple more questions in the chat, Tammy.
Okay, let's see. How do some people change the font in the description?
Oh, you know what? That's actually a setting that you can do on your phone. I actually wouldn't recommend that you change the font. Like, you know how you can go on Instagram and you see people, it looks like they have a different font. I wouldn't use different fonts because the algorithm can't read those fonts. So, you know, when the algorithm, which is a computer program, basically is scanning through accounts to see, like, they want to show your content to the most relevant people possible. If you're using these other fonts, that I think you can download, or, you know, they're like available in your settings. It's almost like it's like Instagram's looking at a blank slate. Like, they can't read it, if that makes sense. So don't use other fonts. Use like the default fonts that come with Instagram.
Does the IG algorithm account for ratios of followers following? Should we be mindful of that ratio?
Yeah, I mean, there's different schools of thought with that. I don't believe in like follow back. Like, I don't think just because someone follows you, you have to follow them back. I think there's a lot of games that people play with, like, I'm going to follow 50 people, and that way they'll all follow me back. Like, I don't necessarily believe in that philosophy. And I know there is a ratio where, you know, if you're following too many people in one day, Instagram will say, whoa, you're following too many people. But as far as like, does your content get seen more or less based on that ratio? I don't think that makes a big difference.
And how does a person learn Instagram from the ground floor? The very basics. What is your idea of what the first step would be to learning Instagram?
Yeah. So what I would recommend, looks like Daryl asked that. I would say if you haven't had a chance yet, 2 of the resources that I shared, and I can actually share these links again if you'd like. I have an Instagram 101, which is like, if you're in the very big ground floor, you know, which it sounds like you might be. Let me just drop this. Let's see if I can drop this in the chat here really quick. This would be a good watch for you. It's maybe like 5 or 7 minutes. You don't have to watch it right now, but just click on it, watch it at some point. That's going to be really helpful for you. Also, I would say the Instagram guide is really good because we kind of walk through from soup to nuts, like beginner, intermediate, advanced. So those would be 2 things. The other thing I would say too is when you're on Instagram, before you even post stuff, I would just spend a few minutes scrolling through your feed, looking at to see if are you following people. If you're not following people yet, I would say you can go into your settings. You can see who from your phone contacts are on Instagram, and you can connect with some of those people. You can see who from Facebook, if you're active on Facebook, who on Facebook is on Instagram, and if you want to connect with some of those people. And then I would just start to kind of, like I said, scroll through that feed, start to see what other people are posting that you're already following. I would also recommend that you search out any of your favorite local businesses. Like, do a little bit of a brainstorm and go like, what's my favorite pizza shop? What's my favorite winery? What's my favorite, weekend getaway? Like, one of my favorite things in the local area. Search those on Instagram, see what they're posting. And this might sound weird, but sometimes by just kind of lurking a little bit and seeing what's the landscape, right? It's like going into a party and you don't just like say hi to everybody right away. You kind of like get a lay of the land, like what's happening here, right before you jump in. So that's what I would recommend before you even start posting, is just kind of look to see who you're following, see who you can connect with some local businesses, and then watch the video and download the guide. And that's really going to help you in terms of like the nuts and bolts for like how to start posting and where to post and stuff like that. So I hope that helps. That was a really good question.
Then you have another question?
Yes, I did. So Katie, I'm using a Droid and I have a business account, and I'm looking on there how to edit my my description the way that you did it, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm totally, I can't find this thing for nothing. Can you help me?
Well, what I would say, I don't have a Droid right in front of me. You might want to just do it from your computer instead. Like you might want to go to, I think that's actually the easiest, to be honest with you. So go to Instagram.com, log in, and then you're going to go to your page. And when you're on, not your feed, but on your profile page at the very top, there's a button that says edit profile, and you can click that. And then you can just type it right in from your computer. So I'm sure there's an easier way to do it on your phone. I just don't have an Android right in front of me. I don't want to send you down a rabbit hole.
No, it's all good. And then for Daryl or anyone else, I saw that we're doing our pre-caravan this week for Thursday. I obviously don't know anything about Instagram, just the basics. But if anyone wants to stick around after the meeting, I'm happy to show you my phone. And maybe Katie will refine any of my bad information I give out. So I'm just making that offer out there.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Okay, anybody else? No, thank you so much, Katie. This has been amazing. And I'll tell you what, my professors have nothing on you.
Well, thank you. That's a big compliment. I so appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I know we covered a lot today, so feel free to reach out. I will put my email in the chat one more time, just in case, you know, if you have a question or something pops up and you don't want to ask in front of all of your colleagues, you can always email me. And Tammy, I'll send you those links too. So if you wanted to send those out to anybody who wasn't able to be here today, feel free to do that too. So, and connect with me guys on Instagram, you know, send me a message, say, hey, I was in your class. Especially those of you who, you know, maybe you don't have your camera on, you're not camera ready, it's all good. But message me. I would love to connect with you guys. So
thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Have a wonderful rest of the week. Good to see everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Katie.